going to try to move your mics around. Okay, let's see. Does this work? Still good? Well, thank you all for being here with us today. I want to thank all of the elected officials standing behind me. We are all here today because we believe in the same vision, a vision of better Minneapolis. Minneapolis is such an important place to each of us. Its vibrance, resilience, and beauty touches us all. There's a reason so many people who are born here stay here, and there's a reason so many of us who leave at some point end up coming back. Minneapolis is special, and it is time it had leadership its residents deserve. And so today I am deeply, deeply proud to announce my endorsement of these two incredible women candidates for the mayor of Minneapolis, Knuth and Sheila Nezhad. And to ask Minnesotans to rank Kate and Sheila for mayor. I've had the pleasure of working closely with each one of them. I know them both to be dedicated, hardworking public servants. I know them both to be fierce defenders of working class, of people of color, of religious and ethnic minorities, and of the LGBT community, and of Minnesotans of all strides. And I know them both to have one of the most incredible and important ingredients of being good elected official, an unwavering conviction in their values, an unshakable belief that a better Minneapolis is possible. This city has gone through about as much as a city can over the past few years. A housing crisis, a COVID-19 pandemic, the murder of George Floyd, and the uprising that followed. I have heard from countless constituents about how difficult it has been. I've listened to their trauma, and I've heard their cries for change. And no matter who I talk to, there is one thing they have in common: frustration that the current leadership seems unable to meet the challenges they face. When I ask my constituents if their lives have gotten easier or more difficult under this administration, the answer is almost always the same. Things are harder. The status quo is not working, and we need new direction. Kate has been a passionate public servant for many years. Her work in the State House and as Minneapolis Chief Resilient Officer helped lay the foundation for our city's plans to combat and resist climate change in the future. She has been an important advocate for her community at the neighborhood, city, and state levels. Sheila's diligent work directly contributed to the creation of the Office of Violent Prevention in Minneapolis in 2018, and the allocating of $8 million of investment in alternatives to policing in 2020. And she co-authored the Yes for Minneapolis Public Safety Amendment that has gathered more than 20,000 signatures. I encourage all of you to vote yes on that question with me as well. Both of these women represent much needed change and reform in the face of 4 years of failed leadership in our city. Instead of using all the levers of power in City Hall to create the urgent change we need, we have seen increased division, finger pointing, and failure to deliver meaningful and tangible changes to policing and public safety in the city. We should not accept a Minneapolis that is becoming less affordable and more segregated, as the current mayor opposes policy that will lower rents and keep people in their homes. And we absolutely cannot accept a city that has become less safe and more violent, especially for communities of color and the poor, as the mayor sides with the Minneapolis Police Department and their union against the demands of massive coalition of Minneapolitans begging for structural change to our city's public safety. Although our incredible Attorney General was successful in prosecuting Derek Chauvin, no other MPD officer has been held accountable for the countless incidents of violence, discrimination, and abuse that have been recorded since the George Floyd killing. We all want safer communities. We all want to go outside without worrying that we will face violence. But instead of rebuilding trust in the wake of George Floyd's murder, the mayor has sided with the very department that took his life and the police union that blocks so much needed change. In fact, instead of spending the money Congress passed in the American Rescue Plan on investments in the most vulnerable members of our community, the current administration is spent it on the Minneapolis Police Department. Just in the past weeks, we have seen video recordings of MPD officers discussing hunting protesters. We have seen video of officers discussing how certain protesters must be white because they are not looting storefronts. We have seen video of officers driving around the streets of our city in unmarked vehicles, casually shooting at people on the street. The city has had all of this information for more than a year. And not only did they hide it, but none of the officers involved has been disciplined. In fact, recent reporting has shown some of these officers have retired with full pension benefits. The mayor has even rejected the most basic and incremental steps my office has suggested for curbing police violence, like banning the use of lethal projectiles and chemical weapons. A new direction is possible in Minneapolis, one where every person of every background, black, brown, indigenous, and white, is safe and respected in their communities, workplace, and schools, and in their interaction with law enforcement. To get there, we need a new mayor, one committed to taking concrete actions to address the city's deep and persistent racial disparities, to improve public safety and police accountability, and to meet the needs of all Minneapolis residents, especially those marginalized by the status quo. So I'm asking you, Minneapolis voters, to rank Kate and Sheila as your 1 and 2. And I'm asking you not to rank our current mayor. Both of these women are qualified and passionate. Both of them would have an excellent, will make an excellent leader for Minneapolis. And both of them would be a better fit for the city than the current mayor. I am now going to hand the mic over to Kate and Sheila, and then we will take a few questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman, for being so clear that Jacob Frey can no longer be mayor of Minneapolis. And thank you for being so clear that we do not have to choose between safety and justice here in our city. And for being so clear that we in Minneapolis are unified that the status quo on public safety and policing is not acceptable. We are ready for new leadership here in Minneapolis, and I am prepared to offer that leadership as mayor of our city. I have been listening to people all over Minneapolis, and I have been hearing debates. We absolutely are having debates about our city's future right now. But underneath those debates, I hear two really important things. One, we are unified that the status quo is unacceptable. Two, every person in the city of Minneapolis loves this city and wants to move us forward to becoming more safe, more just, and more resilient. We are unified that the status quo on police and public safety is not acceptable. And we are unified that gun violence in our community is currently not acceptable. It is unacceptable for children to be shot and killed in Minneapolis. It's also unacceptable for police to kill people in our city. And the thing is, our path forward does not require us to choose among safety, justice, and police accountability. And as your mayor, I'm ready to offer my leadership to help our city tap into that love we have for Minneapolis, that belief we have in our future, to step forward with the courage we need to build a more just, a safer, and a more resilient city. So thank you, Congresswoman, for offering the kind of leadership that Minneapolis needs right now.
Thank you. I am so excited and honored to earn the Congresswoman's endorsement today. I've long admired her work and believe it's an example of what all visionary leadership should look like. Thank you. My name is Sheila Nezhad, and I'm running for mayor of Minneapolis. I'm the daughter of an immigrant father and Indigenous mother. I'm a queer woman. I'm a renter and a union member. As mayor, I will fight for residents from all walks of life because I know the struggles and resilience of everyday people. My campaign is called Sheila for the People because our city needs a mayor who is ready to lead from the ground up. People across Minneapolis have seen me working in our neighborhoods, fighting for cleaner air, higher wages, and a working safety system. I've been doing this work for years, and I'm ready to do it as mayor. To me, it's not just talking points, it's what I do. Last year, I was out alongside the young people, parents, elders, and faith leaders who are in the streets demanding justice for George Floyd. In my work, I've trained hundreds of people on how to get involved in the city budget process and push the city to reinvest a historic $8 million from the police budget into mental health services and violence prevention last fall. As mayor, I will invest the most in public safety, and that starts with our youth. When I was board president of the Lyndale Neighborhood Association, I saw that crime happens when people don't have their basic needs met through our social systems. People will find a way to get money and survive. I'm running for mayor because I want safety and prevention invested in at the scale we need. I'm running for mayor because our safety shouldn't just be a blank check and no accountability for police. My experience comes from building in movements led by Black, Indigenous, POC, queer, and working class people. I'm a community organizer, and I also work for a community art studio, Ricardo Levins Morales Art Studio. And that's one of the things I love about Minneapolis, is that we can be involved across many spheres, and our art and resilience has held us through what has been an incredibly hard year. We can build a city where everyone who wants to live here can afford to do so, where Black lives are treated as precious, and where safety means safety for everyone. I'm running for mayor because I want to lead alongside the community to that vision. I hope I can earn your support this year. Minneapolis ranked #1 on your ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila and Kate. With that, we will take questions if you have any.
Specifying which candidate you think people should rank #1 versus #2, and can you talk a little bit about your strategy for endorsing two candidates?
I think it's incredibly important for us to collectively come together and to say that we are going to choose to not rank the current mayor because we have brilliant options in front of us for the kind of city that we all want to live in. I plan on voting next week, and we'll let you know how my ranking goes. I think it is going to be important for us to really understand the kind of really mismanagement of the Minneapolis Police Department, their corruption, their cruelty, once the DOJ is done with their investigation. It is important to remind voters that when our current mayor was last running, the one thing he talked about was the fact that Mayor Hodges then was not holding the Minneapolis Police Department accountable. And it's the one thing he has failed to do, and that in itself should make it that people do not rank him as mayor for this election.
Were there any issues aside from public safety that played a key role in your endorsement decision?
There is platitudes of cases. Just I'll give you one or maybe a few examples. One is that we have just seen the mayor of our Twin City join the support that his constituents, city council and everyone has put behind around the amendment to try to make sure renters are protected in his city, while our mayor has been fighting against what constituents are asking for and what his colleagues on the city council have worked so hard to accomplish. I had the opportunity to actually work with our current mayor when I worked at City Hall, and I will tell you that my experience has been that anytime there is progress to be made on behalf of the most vulnerable in our city and gains to be made on the most powerful, he has always chosen the most powerful. And to me, I think it is important that we get public servants that put the interest of the people first and not the interest of those that line their pockets.
Congresswoman Omar, does this mean that you are going to put campaign resources, staff into their campaigns for mayor?
So we have had a dedicated Team Ilhan out knocking the doors of every single ward in Minneapolis. We've been talking to them about the important issues for the last few months, and now we'll just make sure we remind them who they need to rank for mayor.
Concerns about voter integrity and helping turnout.
I mean, turnout for our municipal elections has been lower than we're used to. I'm hoping that there is going to be an increased awareness of the dire need for change in our city. We've been through a lot voting, and this election is the last thing on people's mind. But we have to remind people that all politics is local and politics is personal. Every single problem they are experiencing has a political solution, and these great leaders behind me have the political solutions to the problems we are facing in Minneapolis.
Congresswoman, are you concerned about the split in the progressive vote, or does ranked choice voting take care of that?
Ranked choice voting gives an opportunity for everyone to choose their candidate. What we are hoping is that people who stood with us after the murder of George Floyd, who have shown incredible stride and resilience, who have poured their meager resources into mutual aid, will now come to the aid of those that have mostly suffered under the leadership of our current mayor, and help make the choice so that we can give these incredible leaders the opportunity to create a city that we can all be proud of. Thank you all.